Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conf42 Observability 2025. My name is Ashwin, and I'm joined by my colleague Devang. I'm a senior engineering manager at Adobe, and Devang is a product manager in our payments organization. Together, we have spent years building and scaling high volume commerce and payments platform. Today's talk is titled Beyond the Dashboard Building End to End Observability for Commerce and Payment Systems. I want to start with a question. How many of you have experienced that sinking feeling when your revenue drops, but all your dashboards show green? Your servers are up, your APIs are responding, but somehow there is a loss in your business. That's exactly the problem we are here to solve today. During the course of this talk, we'll talk to you on a journey from reactive monitoring to proactive business observability, sharing real world examples, practical frameworks, and lessons learned from managing commerce and payments platforms at Adobe. Let's dive in. Let me start by putting this challenge in perspective with some numbers that might shock you. First, let's talk about downtime costs. Amazon loses $220,000 per minute during downtime incidents. That's not a typo. $220,000 every single minute their systems are down. But it's not just about downtime. During peak traffic periods, numbers get even more staggering. Shopify processes around 4.6 million in orders per minute during Black Friday peak traffic. Imagine the pressure on their engineering teams. Every second of degraded performance could cost millions. And here's perhaps the most sobering statistics. 62% of customers abandon their purchase after just one failed payment attempt. They don't retry, they don't call support, they just leave. And many of them never come back. This brings us to the key insight. In commerce, observability isn't just about uptime, it's about survival. When your payment systems fail, you're not just dealing with an engineering problem, you're dealing with an existential business threat. These aren't theoretical numbers. Every minute your systems are degraded, every failed payment that goes unnoticed, every customer who hits an error, that's direct revenue loss. And unlike other types of applications in commerce, there's no such thing as acceptable downtime. Before we dive deep, let me quickly establish our credentials. At Adobe Commerce, we are scaling platforms that handle millions of daily transactions. We have designed end-to-end observability architecture for complex commerce platform. And most importantly, we have survived the real-world battle scars. Black Friday, Cyber Monday chaos, meeting payment mandates like 3DS, many geo-specific mandates, where every second counts and failure isn't an option. We are here to share what we have learned in the trenches. Now let's talk about the fundamental shift we need to make in how we think about observability. Traditional monitoring focuses on basic service health checks. It answers simple uptime questions like, is my service up? It looks at the CPU and memory usage, response time metrics, and HTTP error rates like 4xx codes, 5xx codes. This is the foundation, but in commerce, it's not nearly enough. Commerce observability takes a completely different approach. It tracks the complete customer journey and business outcomes. It monitors the end-to-end experience from customer's perspective. Instead of asking, is my service up? Commerce observability asks the question that actually matters to your business. Can customers complete purchase? Because your checkout API might be responding with 200 status codes, but if there's a bug in the payment flow, customers still can't buy. Is the fraud detection blocking good customers? Your fraud system might be working perfectly from a technical standpoint, but if it's too aggressive, you are losing legitimate revenue. What's the actual customer experience? Maybe your APIs are fast, but the front end is broken, or payment forms aren't loading. Customers are frustrated. Payment failures causing involuntary churn. This is particularly concerning for a subscription business. Your billing system might appear healthy, but customers could be churning silently due to failed payments. We'll talk about this a little later as well. And here's one that's often overlooked. Are customers able to edit their wallets correctly? Sometimes something as simple as updating payment information can become a revenue killer if it's broken. Now, let me show you what full funnel observability actually looks like in practice. This is the complete customer transaction journey, and we need observability at every single step. Let's walk through the journey from a customer's perspective. It starts with product discovery when a customer lands on your site and starts browsing. Here, we are monitoring page load times and search performance. If your product pages are slow or search isn't working, you are losing customers before they even find what they want. Next is cart addition. The customer decides they want something and adds it to the cart. We monitor API response time here because if the add to cart button doesn't respond quickly, customer will assume it's broken and leave. Then we hit the checkout process. Here we are monitoring form validation and payment method selection. Every friction point here directly impacts conversion. If customers can't easily select their payment methods, or if form validation is confusing, they'll abandon. Authorization and fraud is where the complexity increases. Here there are many data points that will have to be monitored. We are monitoring risk engine decisions and payment approval rates. Your fraud detection needs to be smart enough to block bad actors while keeping it smooth for the good customers. The balance here directly impacts your revenue. Finally, order fulfillment, confirmation and order processing. Even after payment succeeds, if customers don't get proper confirmation or if there are issues with order processing, you'll get chargebacks and customer support tickets. The key insight is that each touchpoint represents critical revenue impact. A failure at any step doesn't just affect that step, it affects your entire conversion funnel. This is why we need observability across the complete journey, not just at individual service endpoints. Now let's look at this from a subscription business perspective, because the observability challenges are quite different when you're dealing with recurring revenue and subscriptions. There are different data points and metrics that need to be observed. This is a typical subscription lifecycle journey, and every step is a potential failure point that impacts ARR and retention. Unlike one-time transactions, subscription businesses have to worry about the entire customer journey, not just a single purchase. Let's walk around this cycle. It starts with the trial signup. We are monitoring conversion metrics and onboarding friction points. If users can't easily sign up for trials or if the onboarding process is confusing, you are losing potential subscribers before they even experience your product value. Moving to free to paid conversion, this is critical. We monitor payment setup success rates and method preferences. Many potential customers drop off here not because they don't want to pay, but because the payment method or the payment setup process is too complicated or doesn't support their preferred payment method. Here it is critical to measure payment method usage rates and also when a new payment method, say for example, Klarna or LPMs are launched, how they are adopted. Then we have the billing cycle. This is where many subscription businesses get caught off guard. We monitor recurring billing events and schedule accuracy. A missed billing event, for example, or an incorrect scheduling can cause revenue delays or customer confusion. For example, if our billing system is not able to charge the user for a month, Enterprise system might remove access after a grace period, even though the user is at no fault. Payment processing is where the technical complexity really starts showing up. We are monitoring multiple different gateway performances and authorization rates. In subscription, payment failures particularly damaging because they can cause involuntary churn. Customers who want to stay can't because their payment failed. Renewal, the next step here is the renewal step, which is the moment of truth for retention rates and involuntary churn prevention. This is where silent failures can be devastating. But this is also an opportunity for us to right size subscriptions. Maybe a customer needs to be downgraded so that their plan is right sized rather than churn out completely. So without proper observability into their usage patterns and payment behavior, we will miss these retention opportunities. Finally, usage and expansion. We monitor feature adoption and upgrade revenue opportunities here. Understanding how customers use our product helps us identify expansion opportunities and even preventing churn. The key insight here is that subscription observability requires monitoring through the entire customer lifetime, not just individual transactions. Each step in the cycle compounds over time, making the impact of failures much more significant than in traditional e-commerce business. Now let's talk about how the traditional three pillars of observability, that's metrics, logs, and cases, will look when you're dealing with commerce and subscription businesses. First pillar, which is metrics. So beyond system health, instead of just tracking CPU and memory usage, we need to track revenue flow and business outcomes. We'll have to focus on customer-centric measurements. This means revenue flow metrics like ARR, conversion rates. These tell you about your business health, not just your system health. Payment success rate by processors, because like a 99% success rate with one processor might be 85 with another. And that difference is millions in revenue. And then customer lifecycle metrics like churn and LTV, these help you understand the long-term impact of the technical decisions that you make. And time to value percentiles, how long does it take customers to get value from your product after they sign up? All right, second pillar, logs with business context. Traditional logs tell you what happened technically. Commerce logs need to capture decision reasoning and customer journey context. They need to link technical events to business impact. This includes payment processor responses, not just payment failed, but why it failed and what that means for specific customer journey breadcrumbs. That is basically understanding the full path a customer took before they encounter an issue. Then business decision reasoning. Why did the fraud engine block this transaction? What data points led to the decision? And the revenue weighted error classification. Not all errors are equal. Some cost you more money than others. Let's look at the third pillar. This traces across revenued systems. We need to follow complete transaction flows across all systems that affect revenue. This isn't just about following a request through your microservices. It's about mapping dependencies that affect your business. This means end-to-end transaction flows from customers to the money in the bank. Payment gateway dependencies, understanding how third-party services impact your revenue is also quite important. Third-party services, like say when Adyen or PayPal has issues, how does that affect your business and your customers? And now, talking about subscription lifecycle tracking, we'll have to follow the customer's entire journey, like we looked at it a few slides ago before, from trial to renewal to expansion. The key insight is that commerce observability requires all three pillars to work together to give you a complete picture of both your technical systems and your business outcomes. So all the slides above bring us to this fundamental mind shift, moving from reactive monitoring to proactive observability. Reactive monitoring waits for problems to surface. You'll alert when service is down, customer complaints have gone up, and then revenue is already lost. But proactive observability detects patterns before they impact customers. You can detect degradation patterns, predict failure cascades, implement automated remediation, and operate in revenue protection mode. Here's the difference. Instead of waiting for customers to complain about failed payments, a proactive observability can detect a 2% increase in payment failures, and this can predict that this could become a 20% involuntary churn. This will give us time to fix it before it starts impacting our business. In commerce, reactive means revenue is already lost. Proactive means we are protecting the revenue. To drive this further home, let's look at a real world example of why this proactive mindset is so critical. This is about what we call a silent killer of subscription business, involuntary churn. Let's start with the problem. 20 to 40% of total churn in a subscription business is involuntary. These are failed payments that silently destroy subscriber bases without warning. Think about that. Nearly half of your customer losses might not be because of customers wanting to leave, but because of payment system failures. Renewals failure rate is at a staggering 5 to 18% of subscriptions failing at each billing cycle. That means 1 in 8 of your customers might not renew successfully, not because they don't want your product, but because their payment didn't go through. And now let's look at this impact on a global scale. So this would be around 118 billion lost globally in 2020 due to payment failures. This creates massive revenue hemorrhage across entire industries. That's not just a technical problem, that's an economic crisis. Here's the observability challenge. Traditional monitoring creates a blind spot. Your systems will show healthy when while customers will quietly disappear. Your billing systems report success, your APIs are responding, your databases are performing well, but customers are churning silently. The most critical issue is zero real-time visibility. Most businesses discover churn after customers have already gone. By the time you realize there's a problem, you've lost not just revenue, but customer relationships that took months or even years to build. This is a perfect example of why traditional monitoring will fail in commerce or subscription businesses. All your technical metrics can be green while your business is bleeding money. You need observability that focuses on business outcome, not just system health. This is why we need a proactive approach, like we discussed earlier, that can detect payment issues sooner so that more customers can be saved and more revenue can be protected. This brings us to one of the most challenging aspects of commerce observability, which is dealing with unknown unknowns. These are problems you don't even know to look for. Let me contrast that with two approaches. The traditional approach is reactive. Teams define known failure modes upfront and create alerts for expected problems. This relies on reactive monitoring while alert triggers after impact. It will contain blind spots for unexpected or novel issues. Investigations are typically manual and slow, and it focuses on infrastructure or service health. Traditional monitoring will answer questions like, are all services returning 200 okay? Is the memory usage within limits? But here's the problem. This approach misses the business critical issues that you never thought to monitor. Unknown detection takes a completely different approach. Proactive intelligent systems surface insights from patterns you didn't know to look for. This includes anomaly detection on both business and system metrics, not just CPU spikes, but unexpected drop in conversion rates or unusual payment patterns. For example, 3DS in France may be failing for certain card types. Your systems are still healthy, as this might be a very small dip for a small subset of your users. But in the overall revenue scheme, this is still a revenue loss, which goes unnoticed and could have been easily avoided if you are looking for these unknowns. Cross system correlation of logs, events, and telemetries will help you understand how issues in one system might be causing problems in another. Behavioral pattern recognition to flag outliers, like say detecting when customer behavior changes in ways that might indicate that there may be some problem for which reason the customer are changing their behaviors. And we should also look at how to automate root cause analysis with investigating workflows, system that can trace problems back to their source automatically. Instead of asking, are services healthy? Unknown detection asks, why is the conversion dropping? What changed that we didn't expect? The key insight is captured in this question. What weird thing is happening that we didn't think to monitor? In commerce, the most expensive problems are often the ones you never saw coming. A payment processor starts declining certain types of cards, fraud detection rule suddenly flags legitimate customers, a front end checkout update breaks the checkout workflow in a specific browser or a specific in app experience. These are issues that can cost millions before you even realize they exist. This is why modern commerce observability needs to be intelligent and proactive, not just reactive. Now, let's get practical with lessons from the trenches. What you should do: start with the subscriber's journey, not system architecture. Instrument for ARR outcomes, not just technical health. Create runbooks with churn impact context so your team knows about the business impact immediately. And test your observability during billing cycles when you need it the most. What not to do? Don't alert on everything. Focus on revenue and churn impact. Don't ignore payment processor dependencies or other external dependencies. Don't forget about in-app, mobile experience metrics, and don't neglect customer success team communication. They are often the first to hear about issues. The key insight here is effective commerce observability is as much about process and communication as it is about technology and the stack that we use. One of the biggest challenges in commerce observability isn't technical, it's also organizational. getting everyone on the same page. The challenge is that different teams have different priorities. Engineering most typically always focuses on system uptime and performance. Product cares about feature adoption and retention. BU and finance organizations care about ARR, churn, and churn reduction. Customer success team wants seamless billing experience at a very low call volume. The solution here is an alignment around shared business outcomes. We have to create shared dashboards with ARR context so everyone sees the same business metrics. We have to implement cross-functional incident response for payment issues, not just treat them as engineering problems. We should use revenue impact scoring for all alerts so teams understand business priority, and hold regular business reviews of subscription health metrics. When everyone understands how their work connects to revenue and customer success, observability becomes a shared responsibility, not just an engineering tool. And speaking of that product perspective and a non engineering perspective, let me now hand it over to my colleague Devang, who will share insights on observability from a product manager's perspective. Take it over, Devang.
Thanks, Ashwin. Hi, everyone. I'm Devang Gaur. I'm a payments product manager at Adobe, leading various payments optimization related. Now that we have seen how engineering teams approach observability, let's actually zoom out and ask why should product managers care about this as well? After all, when something breaks, we don't just ask, was the system up? We ask a few more important questions as well. Did the users drop off at checkout? Did failed payments silently kill our renewal rate? Or did our new feature really increase retention? Or did it just introduce new friction? These are very important and core product questions. And observability, if done right, gives us the answers before the revenue is lost, before the churn report lands in at the end of the quarter. Product managers are increasingly being held accountable not just for what they launch, but for the outcome their product drives. And we need to know if a feature truly drove more renewals, reduced friction, or just added unnecessary noise. And that requires absolute best observability, not just at the infrastructure level, but at the customer journey level. So, in the next few minutes, let's explore how observability becomes critical growth lever for product teams. And I'll share a few lessons as we have learned the hard way. Let me take you to a place every product manager has been. You launch a feature, the team celebrates, you move on to building the next big thing. Then, a few weeks later, you hear revenue is down in Europe. Any idea why? You scramble, you pull logs, you talk to engineering, you check all sorts of analytics dashboards, and in the end, maybe you find a clue or maybe you don't. And this is the core issue. We have visibility into delivery, but not into results. Product teams today are flying blind at key moments checkout, renewal, upgrade because they don't have observability into what happened after launch. In most cases, that's not even our priority, and that needs to change. That's the exact blind spot observability is actually meant to eliminate. Let me give you a story. I've had cases where an A/B experiment showed no, we were ready to kill the feature, but our observability data showed users were actually hitting a silent JavaScript error on mobile devices. Now, in this case, it wasn't about the feature, it was about a missing dependency. We would have made the wrong decision without that insight. And it's not just one feature. Think of your user funnel as a leaky pipe. Without observability, you don't know where it's leaking. You just see the bucket filling slower than expected. So now the question is, what does product observability look like? Think of it like upgrading from a car dashboard that only tells you if the engine is on to the one that tells you if your passengers are buckled in, GPS is working, and whether you are even heading towards your destination. Now, the traditional metrics tells us if a system is healthy, but product observability tells us if your business is healthy. And here is a simple comparison. CPU usage, good. But did your free trial users convert? That's even better, right? Then response time, quite useful. But did wallet updates succeed? That's quite actionable. And how about uptime? That's necessary. But did renewals go through? That's actual revenue. Let me give you an example, right? Imagine you have launched a new wallet experience. Uptime is 99.99%. API latency is below threshold, but the users are seeing an unhelpful error message if their card is expired. Now, you wouldn't know that unless you are tracking wallet update success rate. Observability means turning these customer interactions into signals we can actually act on. Now, here is why this matters. This actually shortens the feedback loop between problem and action. Now, in a traditional setup, you might notice churn went up last month. You dig in, do an analysis. Maybe you bring your additional data analytics teams. Weeks go by, and in the process, revenue is actually lost. Now imagine the same situation, but observability detects a 15% spike in failed renewals from one single payment process. You get an alert, you look at the logs, see it's tied to a specific card range, payment method, or maybe a specific market or geo as well, and you route traffic differently the very same day. This is the difference between watching your engine die on the freeway and getting a dashboard warning before you even leave the garage. I often ask my team, what signal would have helped us catch this sooner? And more often than not, that signal already exists. It's just that it's buried deep down. Observability brings it to the surface. Let me give you a real example from one of our recent experiences. Right, we noticed churn in US was creeping up, but our dashboards looked just fine. There was no apparent service degradation. There were no alerts, nothing. But our observability data showed a sudden drop in wallet update success for a particular payment process. A config change, it turns out, had silently broken our integration, and therefore the users were not able to update cards, so their subscription renewals were failing. We fixed it in less than 48 hours without observability. That would have taken us weeks. And by then, the revenue would have been lost. Now, some people might say this is a pure payment processor issue, not your fault. But as product managers, we own the customer journey. Whether it's a product feature or a payment edge case, it's on us to see it and solve it. So, what is a product manager's role in all of this? We are not just backlog managers or roadmap owners. We are the actual sense makers. We cut through the noise. We connect business outcomes to product decisions. That means we need to lead with observability. We define what success looks like. We ask, how will we know this is working in real time or not? To achieve that, we partner with engineering to build not just features, but great feedback loops. Now, think of observability like writing a product specification, but for visibility. If you're launching a new billing flow, add a couple of things to your acceptance criteria, like can I see payment success by payment method? Can customer support see wallet errors by region? Can we detect if retry success drops by a particular card type, payment method, right? If you don't ask these questions, no one will, and you will face the consequences. Okay, so after understanding all of that, where do you start? You don't need to boil the entire ocean. Start with the points closest to money. In a subscription business, that usually means three things: free to paid conversion, wallet updates and setup success, and recurring billing and renewal. These are the golden flows. Every percent improvement here compounds monthly, bringing in more revenue for your product and the company. For example, at Adobe, we started by instrumenting a retry success rate. Just knowing when and why changed how we route transactions, and this helped us retain revenue that would have otherwise been lost. It turns out you don't need 500 metrics, you just need five that matter. Now, let's wrap up with a few key takeaways. First, think subscriber journey first, not just uptime. Are users able to convert, pay, and renew? You have to think about that. Second, instrument what drives annual recurring revenue, churn, and lifetime value. Not just logs, but actual outcomes. And third, make observability cross-functional. You can't do it all by yourself. Your dashboard should be shared by teams like customer support, engineering, finance, and product. And lastly, treat observability like a product investment, because the best growth strategy is not just launching new features. It's making sure the ones you have already launched are working and that you know they are working. I'll leave you with this. Your roadmap doesn't end at launch. It ends when you have proven the impact. And observability is how we close. Thank you.